Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Megan, and today I'm going to be discussing the second book in Elle Kennedy's off-campus series called The Mistake. So let's get into it. I absolutely loved this book. So this book is Logan's love story. Oh my gosh, it was just, there were so many romantic scenes in this book. It felt like a movie. Like reading it, I could vividly picture this love story, a movie. And I don't know. I think I like it better than the first one, better than Hannah and Garrett. Sorry to them. But I think this one was really romantic, and it was just a different type of love story than Garrett and Hannah's. And I literally read it in one sitting. I got out of work and I read it from 5 o'clock to midnight. And it's quite a bit shorter than the first one. But I never read a book all in one sitting. I was just enamored in it. Who knew Logan was so romantic? Like it was so good. It had just a right balance of things. You got to know a little bit about both characters' home lives and how they integrated, and got to meet each other's parents. Like, I don't know, it just felt like it could be like a rom-com or a movie. And I'm just like excited. I'm probably gonna have to take a few days to recover from this book. I read this book the day after I finished the other one, and I'm gonna need a few days off in order to get to the next book because I reread it the next day because I liked it so much. And that's never happened before for me for a book. I read books like multiple times, but I never read a book like back to back. Like just some of the scenes that Grace and Logan have are just like so cute. Like the way that they're described, and I could just vividly picture it. And then there were some scenes that reminded me of other TV shows, which I'm gonna go over some of my favorite scenes. The first one is they go to the movie. So it's Grace's birthday, and it's like a Wednesday night, I think, and it's the cheapest day to go to the movies. And so Dean pushes Logan to go to the movies because Jason Statham has a new movie out and it's the cheapest. So he drags Logan to the movie theater, and they end up seeing Grace there with her friend Ramona. Dean's like, well, who is this? And then he like introduces them, and he was just like, hey, can we like split up? Because the movies is packed, so there's only like pairings. And he was like, hey, can we split up? I want to sit with Grace because it's her birthday. Throughout the movie, he has like his hands on her, I think. Or like they're holding hands or whatever it is. And he was just like, he's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you feel if we missed a few minutes of the movie? And she's like, 2. And he's like, let's go. So there's like a closet, I guess, like on the way out. And so they go in the closet and they like make out and do this other stuff. And he's like, happy birthday. And so she's like, thank you. And then as they go out the door, he kind of like opens, and then he like bows, and he's like, after you, gorgeous. So like I like how he says like, hey, gorgeous. It kind of reminds me of like when Logan calls Rory Ace in Gilmore Girls. His name is Logan. So Logan and Tucker, both first name are John, so they go by their last name. So throughout the book, she calls him John, Logan, and then Johnny. And so I love it when she calls him Johnny, and he does too, because the only people who calls him Johnny are his family. And sometimes his friends will call him John, but majority of the time in the house and around for sports, it's their last name. And so it's so cute because she calls him Johnny, and he's like, what? And she's like, yeah, it's just so cute. Anyways, so the gesture at the movie theater when they get out of the closet was so stinking cute. And then so in the dining hall, and everyone's like looking at her, and it's just like a nasty rumor thing. And then he walks up to her, and she's just like, I can't take this anymore. So she starts to turn her chair and get up, and Logan's right there, and he plants a kiss on her, and he's like, are you ready to go? And she plays along. She's like, yeah. She's like, I just need to take care of the tray first. He's like, oh no, I got it. So he takes care of the tray. He comes back, grabs her hand, and they walk out together. It reminded me of A Walk to Remember, where he protects her in that scene, and they end up leaving. He ends up going to his town that he grew up in because it's only like 30 minutes away. And so they pass through Hastings, and she's like, oh, this is where I'm from. And then he goes to the next town over. He's like, well, this is where I'm from. And she's like, oh, you're local too. And he's just like, yeah. So they go up to this water tower, and she's like, there is no way I'm going up there. And he's like, well, I'll catch you if you fall. And she's like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about falling. And they go up there and they sit down, or he sits down and she sits next to him, and he has his arm around her. And he talks about, he's like, look over there. And she's like, not even looking she has her eyes closed. She's like, I'm not looking. He's like, well, you can look at it if you open up your eyes. And so there's like a pond, and he's like, yeah, this is where I used to play growing up. He's like, it looks so small from here, even though it looks so big younger. And so they have like this cute like little moment, and he's like, is there a place that makes you, that you like to go to and just have a moment of like silence or serenity? And she's like, yeah, the gazebo that's across the park, if you know where that's at. He's like, yeah. She's like, I like to go there and read, which there is a gazebo saying that I'm going to get to because I like it as well. So when he comes back to school after they have not talked, Hannah and Dean convince him to go running because Hannah and Dean have been running together all summer. They go running, and they actually pass by the gazebo, and he sees a girl there. He's like, oh, he's like, that's Grace. And then he noticed, oh no, it's not, because there's a girl with blonde hair, and she's in this nice green sundress, just sitting there reading a book. Then she looks up, and he's like, it is Grace. He's like, she dyed her hair. And Hannah and Dean are running up, and they realize like, oh my gosh, look. I'm like, where are you? And they're like, oh, is that her? And he's like, yeah. He's like, that can't be her. She has brunette hair. And she's like, well, it looks like she dyed it blonde. And so she meets his eye. And so he's like, I'll catch up with you guys later. And they're like, okay. So he just like walks slowly up to her, and he says hi. And he's like kind of nervous. And she says hi back. And he's like, you didn't call me back. And she's like, no, I didn't. She's like so direct. And I just like love it. He compliments her. He says that he's in this very nice dress, and she dyed her hair blonde, and he's like, it really suits you. And she said, yeah, I was in Paris visiting my mom all summer. She gave me a makeover. And he's like, Paris? And she was like, yeah. And so they end up talking, and he really wants to prove her that he's not a jerk, and he really wants to go on a date with her because that's all he thought about the entire summer. And so she denies him, but she said, I don't really hold grudges. Like, you're forgiven. And if I see you around campus, I will, say hi. I have no problem doing that. And if we meet up sometime to get coffee, we meet up sometime to get coffee. But she said, right now, I don't think it's going to happen. And so in his perspective, he was just like, okay, well, she didn't technically say no, but she said, like, not right now. So he's like, I can work with that. And so that scene was just so cute, and just the way that I don't know, it just like was very movie-esque. I absolutely love that scene. And then towards the end of the book, they had another argument later on. So like she kind of gives him a list to kind of win her back because he is very persistent. He's like, I honestly will do anything for you. And she's like, anything? So she gives him like this list of 6 things to do. They're like gestures or like quests, basically. And let me tell you, like, the boys at the house, like Dean, Garrett, and Tucker, and even Hannah, are all into this list. Like, even the guy, she ends up working at a radio station because her roommate is like a radio or a communications major. And even the guy that's there, like, is also invested in it. So there's other people who are invested in this situation. And so towards the end, Logan has this moment because his dad's an alcoholic. He is struggling with his family situation outside of school. One of the things that Grace has noticed a couple of times is the self-pity he puts himself in. There's this fight that they have towards the end of the book, and they're in love with each other, but neither of them say it, and Grace would like him to say it first because of the 2 denials that happened previously. She didn't want to like embarrass herself or anything. She kind of hands it to him because there was something that happened, and so she pounces into his room, and she kind of gets mad at him about the self-pity and not like talking through it because he thinks that she will break up with him because he's gonna not do the NHL. He's gonna have to move back home, take care of his dad, all this other stuff. And so he kind of puts it all on her. And so she's just confused on why you really think that low of me that I'm going to break up with you because we have a couple of stumps that come in our relationship, and I'm willing to sit and work it out, and you think that when something goes wrong, I'm just going to break up with you. And so I think that kind of offended her, that she's more than that. And I kind of, at first, I didn't really like the scene, but then when I reflected on it, I really did like it, because I don't think Grace is that superficial to be like, I'm just going to break up with you because of this bad thing that's happening. But she will put him in his place and be like, okay, fine. She's like, by the way, I'm doing this because I love you. And she's like, I love you. I think she said, I don't remember what exactly she said, like jerk or something. I don't remember what she said, but she's just like, I love you. And she slams the door. And he was just like, oh my gosh, she like loves me. I love her too. And everyone's there at the house, so they all hear it. And Garrett's like, I'm not even here. Or he says to Garrett, who walks by in the hallway, he's like, I'm not even here for a lecture. Like, I don't even have time for it. And so the other guys, because he realizes what he did was wrong, and they were just like, gotta make it up to her again. And so one of the things on the list is that he has to write a poem. And who was there? Tucker is like, oh, well, maybe you should write another poem or whatever. Or maybe Garrett says that, and one of them say it. And he was like, oh, well, probably needs to do something different. He was like pretty smart about it. Like, you can figure it out. And so he ends up going to the radio station, and he calls in because there is this relationship segment that they do, because she had to go to work. So it was just a brief confrontation in his bedroom. And so he ends up calling in. And so the other people at the radio station know about him calling in because they have to prep the next caller. So they have to like screen him. So he goes on about telling his problem. He's like, I should have told her I loved her months ago, but we have been together that long and I didn't want to scare her away. And the guy's like, yeah, you should have told her I loved her. You loved her. And he compliments her. He talks about all the things that he loves about her, and she sees him through the window outside. It reminded me so much of the Dawson's Creek episode in the last season where Jen works at a radio and does the like relationship. And so the relationship show, and they end up having this live show with Dr. Drew comes on, and I think Adam Carolla might be the other guy's name. They both come on and talk about relationships. And there's a moment where her boyfriend, or some guy that she's hooking up with in Dawson's Creek, I can't think of his name, but Jensen Ackles plays her love interest. And he does the exact same thing. He calls in because he wants more than just friends with benefits. I believe that's what the situation is. But he calls in and he talks about his feelings, because Jen isn't someone necessarily to open up vulnerability like that in terms of relationship. So I think part of her is like kind of scared. But he confronts her there in a group of everyone, and there's this grand gesture. And so this moment in the book really reminded me of Dawson's Creek. And I just love the moment because she just goes out there and like hugs him and everything, and apologizes, and they make up. And she's like, if anything happens, she's just like, you are so good at romantic gestures that 90% of the time you can get me back. And he was like, 90%? He's like, what about the other 10%? She's like, well, if I ever come to your place and you have a like murder plan in the basement, then we're gonna have a problem. And he's like, geez, what is with you and serial killers? He's like, you should totally do profiling, because she's a psych major. And so it's just like this cute moment, and I absolutely loved it. Like, there were just so many like romantic scenes throughout this book that I just generally loved, and it was just a cute story. I absolutely loved it. One of my favorite other scenes is that Logan actually ends up missing out on dinner with her dad because he didn't come back in time from the situation from his dad. And so I think that's kind of why the self-pity started. And she was kind of frustrated in that. She goes to the dad's house, and it's like 10 o'clock, and she was just like, well, I'll take Grace home. He's like, I'm sorry, my phone died, and all this other stuff. And he's like, he's like, son, do you want to talk about it? And he was just like, no. He's like, well, you look very white, and you look very exhausted. And then he just starts bawling and crying, and the dad comes down and just hugs him. And Logan is just crying in Grace's dad's arms and just tells him that things are gonna be okay. And so I'm assuming Logan tells him everything that's happened with his dad and maybe his future in the NHL. And so his dad calls Grace the next day, said, hey, Logan came over last night, but I think he really needs you. And so she necessarily doesn't really know everything, and that's kind of when she goes over and tries to ask him what happened, and he was reluctant kind of to tell her. And so that's kind of when she went off on him, is like, my dad called me to check up on you, but you're not willing to tell me the truth because you just think I'm going to end things with you because you missed dad's dinner. You know what I mean? And she just thought that maybe he thought of her better than that. And so that's kind of how that whole thing started. But that scene was very powerful, where he just bawls his eyes out. I hope that scene is in the TV show if they decide to do Logan's story. There are just so many good moments. And I know some people probably thought this book was boring. I personally didn't. I think I saw a little bit my younger self in Grace, but I don't know. It just gave me like a romantic vibe. And I don't know, their love for each other just felt so authentic that I think that's part of the reason why I liked it better than the first book. But like I said, it was just a different type of love story scenario than the first one. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.